You're ready.
Okay, my name is Matt, and I'll be talking about the financial aid for higher education. Financial aid has gone up for the past 43 years. According to Richard Fossey, who wrote Condemning Students to Debt, financial aid was $250 million in 1965, and in 1997 it was up at $30 billion. So our resolution is that the government's higher educational student grant system should be replaced by a limited government loan program. I'll do this by pointing out that the grant and scholarship systems are corrupt. Tuition increases because the government has guaranteed loan amounts. The government offers student loans at rates that private loan companies can't compete with. And our policy is that we should remove the grant system from federal and state governments, that we should limit the amount of government-approved loans, and we should stabilize tuition costs by returning the rate of change to inflation percentages. Okay, so the reason why this problem is significant is that the grant and scholarship systems are corrupt. Schools are trying to get the best and brightest students to go to their colleges, but they're doing it through unethical means. According to Thomas Mortensen, who is a senior scholar at the Pell Institute for the Study of Opportunity in Higher Education, says that students will enroll in college if the net cost of tuition is better than competitors. Gregory A. Jackson also says the same thing in his research called Financial Aid and Student Enrollment. Net cost is the tuition minus the amount of financial aid, so the total amount that you're paying is the net cost. So this means that schools can charge whatever they want as long as they give out scholarships and the students receive grants to reduce the price of tuition. For example, a student gets into MIT and UC Berkeley. MIT has an initial cost of $40,000 and Berkeley has a cost of $30,000. The student chooses to go to MIT because they give $20,000 in financial aid to the student, while Berkeley gives no financial aid. Tuition has gone up higher than inflation because of these grants and the scholarship system. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics reports that from 2002 to 2007, college tuition and fees have an inflation percentage of 31%. During the same period, overall inflation is 13%. This means that tuition has gone up twice as much as other products sold in the U.S. My second significant point for this problem is that tuition increases because the government has guaranteed loan amounts. The government is indirectly raising tuition costs. According to James C. Hearn, a professor of higher education at the University of Georgia, federal loans have grown to well over half of all the students' financial aid awarded in this country. The federal government is not a bank or a lending agency, and the president has set aside $120 billion in 2007 for student loans. The universities know that they will receive this money, and so there is nothing to stop them from raising their prices. All right, so the reason why the policy is wrong today is that the government offers student loans at rates that private loan companies cannot compete with. More students will go to the government for loans because of their lower rates. The U.S. Department of Education has an interest rate set at 6% for subsidized loans, 6.8% for unsubsidized loans, and 8.5% for Parent Plus loans. Subsidized loans mean that through your college experience, you're not going to get tacked on with interest only after you've graduated. Unsubsidized means that you're going to have the interest throughout your college career. And that Parent Plus is when your subsidized and unsubsidized loans run out and you have to get your parents to co-sign and they take out a loan. The private loan companies have interest rates that are higher. According to Sally Mae, a private company that helps students find loans, loan interest rates from a private lender is around 7%, but this is based on a variable percentage that will change as the market changes. This means that your loan interest rate is not constant. It can get higher or lower at any time. Wells Fargo has student loans based on this variable interest rate starting at 6%, but you need to have a perfect credit score to get this 6%. So our policy will remove the grant system from federal and state governments. This will reduce the amount of extra money that schools can use to attract their students. Our policy will also limit the amount of government-approved loans. This will cause a more competitive market for private lenders. And finally, our policy will stabilize tuition costs by returning the rate of change to inflation percentages. By limiting the grant system, students will have to turn to loans. This will overload the government loans, and this will cause the government to limit the amount of loans that students receive. Students will turn to private lenders for their education finance, and that the private lenders will hold the universities and colleges accountable for their tuition prices. So I spoke about in my speech today that the grant and scholarship systems are corrupt, that tuition increases because the government has guaranteed loan amounts. The government offers student loans at rates that private loan companies can't compete with. And our policy will remove the grant system and will limit the amount of government-approved loans and stabilize tuition costs by reducing the rate of change to inflation percentage.